Hello everybody, James here. Now, Paul Heyman recently had a response for Braun Strowman, which, even though Strowman had nothing nice to say about Paul Heyman in his initial post, Paul Heyman's response came across as particularly spiteful. He even did one of those little JPEG things, I guess, and posted that as if to etch said vitriol into stone, or virtual stone maybe, so you know Paul Heyman means this stuff. Anyway, Braun Strowman took umbrage with the comment that Paul Heyman made on WWE Raw, claiming that Roman Reigns would be leaving on a stretcher out of the arena for the first time in his career. And then Braun Strowman, if we saw that out, there we go. Braun Strowman posted on Twitter a few hours later an image of Roman Reigns being stretched out of WWE arena by his own hands. So this was back in 2017. But that's not the point. It's the caption above it. Yeah, okay, Oswald Cobblepot. Now, if you don't know who Oswald Cobblepot is, he is, he's the character in the Batman franchise of the Penguin, who is here played by Danny DeVito in Batman. Is it Batman Returns? I think it's Batman Returns. Anyway, it's the second one with Michael Keaton and the greatest Batman of all time. That's not the point. Anyway, so Strowman posted this. And then a few hours later, Paul Heyman was rather upset. I guess didn't find it amusing for real, because it seems a little sort of like, once again, a bit too spiteful, a bit too angry, a bit too hate-filled a response for it to just be from his character, I suppose. But who knows? Maybe he is playing the character. But here we go. Here is Paul Heyman's response. Dear Mr. Strowman, your post was brought to my attention. I have nothing negative to say about you, nor to you, sir. In fact, I'm actually relieved and indeed celebratory to learn you're still alive, something most of us didn't even realise and even fewer cared about. With love and respect, Paul Heyman. There you go. So obviously Paul Heyman didn't find that particularly amusing. Damn thing. There we go. Paul Heyman didn't find that particularly amusing, and I suspect, once again, in real life rather than him playing a character, because I'll give you my reason for that, why, in a minute, but Heyman posted on his Instagram reel or whatever it was when really the the real response would have been to actually have not said anything, because it's not that big of a deal, and, you know, no one would have really noticed it if most likely Paul Heyman hadn't mentioned it in the first place. But Paul Heyman, I believe, is very sensitive about his weight, and that's why he's not finding it amusing. And there's a reason why I'm saying that. And you probably didn't realise it. He's out there every week. As far as I can tell, he's made no concerted effort to get in real proper shape over all these decades he's been on TV, but, from at least the 90s onwards, because he was actually quite slim in the 80s. Anyway, to explain the butthurt response, I guess that's it. Now, the reason why I actually say that he's got an issue with people pointing out his weight is because Vince Russo called him fat more than one time, I believe, on some of his Sportskeeda podcasts. He does like 100 podcasts, but one of them, or at least one of them, he does for Sportskeeda, I think like the Indian-based wrestling news outlet. And apparently, according to Russo, Paul Heyman got into contact with Sportskeeda after that happened, and he threatened to sue them more than once, apparently. I don't know if Vince Russo said it again, or if they didn't remove an offending video or whatever it is, but supposedly Paul Heyman threatened to sue Sportskeeda, or maybe even Vince Russo, if he called him fat again. So there you go. Here's the thing. It's like, what are you going to sue them over? Because, I mean, defamation? I mean, you say, well, I'm not fat. You're overweight, buddy. I mean, I don't quite know what the lawsuit would be about. Anyway, that's the point. That's sort of what I'm getting at, is basically he seemed quite angry about being called fat, and that's why he apparently wrote that overly aggressive, dare I say, sort of response where probably none was needed whatsoever, just talking about that nobody cares that you're still alive, or few realise that you were still alive, and even fewer cared about, with love and respect, Paul Heyman kind of thing. So I guess that's pretty much explaining why, if I'm right, of course, why Paul Heyman came out on that post. Anyway, that's pretty much it. So I thought I'd just do that little video there. So like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of thing, and I'll see you for the next one.